Máquina, veremos la velocidad de esta onda muy larga.
That was pretty good. But in no way does this make the David and Goliath story accurate and true to history. We actually have zero proof that David and Goliath ever met, that they fought each other or anything. Now, historically, we do know that at times there were situations where the two opposing armies would send out one warrior, and that one warrior would fight each other. Those two warriors would fight each other, and that would determine the outcome of the battle. This was rarely done, but there are instances where it has been done in that fashion. But let's be real. If this story was true, David had a decided advantage over Goliath. Many people like to use the David and Goliath story to say that when you're facing impossible odds, that with God on your side, you can defeat those odds. But what were the true odds? What were the true odds compared according to this story? Well, let's look at a few things. The first thing that we have to look at, and many people just focus on Goliath's size. Goliath was probably in the story about 10 feet tall, being 6 cubits. He was about 10 feet tall, anywhere from 9 to 10 feet tall. Now, and that depends on if you're using a Egyptian cubit or I forgot the other name of the other type of cubit. But anyway, Goliath being that tall is most likely, and many doctors have said that based on the description and everything that's in it, Goliath probably had acromegalia. I'm saying that wrong. But that being so, most of you may be able to have a reference to that of Andre the Giant, one of the greatest wrestlers to ever grace our consciousness. But Andre the Giant, one of my favorites. Now, if you saw Andre the Giant when he was in his youth, he was agile, he was, flexible. All these things were great about him. But by the time we get to like WrestleMania 3, when he fights Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, being older, he moved slow, he couldn't see that well. And we have these things in this David and Goliath story where Goliath is not quick on his feet. He's wearing about 50 to 100 pounds of armor, and he can't see that well. Why do I say he can't see that well? Because David supposedly only came to Goliath with a shepherd's stick and a sling and some stones. But Goliath said, "Why do you come at me with these sticks?" as plural. Most likely, he could not see as well, which is one of the things that happen with people with acromegalia, is that their eyesight will go as they get older. And that can happen to anybody though, really. So he saw sticks instead of a stick. But the fact that he was moving slow and David was using a projectile weapon gave David the advantage. You're quicker, you're more mobile. David didn't want to wear the armor because he needed to keep his mobility fighting someone of that size, and he kept his distance. It doesn't matter how big somebody is. If you come to fight me and you're older and I got a slingshot, I got a gun, I got a bow and arrow, and I'm proficient at it, then you're going to lose. You're going to lose. David had a decided advantage that had nothing to do with any deity whatsoever. David had a decided advantage because he was using projectiles against someone who was not using projectiles, against someone who was slow, someone who was older, someone who literally at this time frame had a disability. So David killed a disabled man, according to this story. And then he was praised for it, and many people still praise him for it and look at it as a situation where you can overcome your greatest challenges. When in fact, the David and Goliath story just says that evaluate a situation and then use the best tactic to defeat that situation. That is the lesson people should be learning from it, not overcoming insurmountable odds, but when you're faced with a challenge, look at the challenge, decide what's the best avenue of approach for that challenge, and then attack that challenge utilizing the strategy and the attacks that would give you a decided advantage over those talents. Now, the army of the Israelites weren't thinking that way. These guys were just like, oh, he's big and all that, and then they want to go fight him with a sword and a shield. Yeah, you're probably going to lose. But projectile weapons, they work great against someone who's big. It's a big ass target. Yeah, ask any military person. They'll agree with me. Just as I am a Marine, will agree. So y'all have a great day. And just remember, a strategy will always defeat. A good strategy can defeat what you believe to be an insurmountable situation because you recognize it for what it is and not recognizing it to be what everybody else thinks that it is. And you'll be able to overcome anything. The David and Goliath story does have a good story. It does have a good moral to it if you look at it for what it really is. But in no way does this prove that there was no proof that David fought Goliath. And there's very little proof that David even existed. There is a tablet that says the house of David. So the house of David could have existed, but if it did, it existed as a vassal state of most likely the Egyptians during the time frame of David. Most likely it was Egyptian. It wouldn't have been Assyrian or anybody else. It was most likely Egyptian. So David still didn't have this kingdom to which everybody thinks or believes that he had. It's kind of like how Herod was the king over Judea, but he was a vassal king under the Roman government, if he existed. And so would have been Solomon. So y'all have a great day. And remember always, you have to free yourself to be yourself because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibration.